So welcome to this third annual showcase. And I'm going to read a short message of Damon, who of course is our partner with whom we have signed an MOU, as it is called, a Memorandum of Understanding with the university. So what I'm going to say now are Damon's words, right? So welcome everyone. Okay, that's a good thing. So, and thank you for accepting my personal invitation to be here. So I'm sorry I couldn't be with you all this evening because he is, of course, elsewhere. He further says we have an exciting group of students and graduates, the graduates over there, students over here, who are truly at the forefront of tourism research. For those of you who have not attended previous showcases, the purpose is to ensure the hard work that is done at the Department of Tourism Management at the University of Malta to reach as many people as possible instead of catching dust in a cupboard. So there's much for us all to learn and from the university also to learn from us. Now this event is being filmed and will be included on the YouTube channel. You've seen the previous 2 years. And it's for everybody to share. So we're open to your suggestions on the way we can make the events better, but also how we can see how we take this mission beyond the presentation format. So there's publications, videos, and other things. So hopefully we all can walk away from this event with something we can appreciate and that lends to bettering of the industry, that is the tourism sector. And of course, the sponsors, that is of course the Hilton Malta and the Hilton Doubletree for supplying us. Touchpoint Precision, that is Damon's company who aim to ascertain the strength of a hotel's brand narrative. Now, Malta Rural Tours, highlighting Malta and Gozo's rural communities, authentic cultural experiences, and of course, exclusively Malta's premier luxury travel DMC. And of course, a thanks to go to the Malta Tourism Authority. Because it's nice to see that the official brands also support what we do. So to put the visual to the words, of course, we have some logos here which we need to show because it's necessary to make sure that everybody has ingrained those images on their retina. And then I will give, of course, my own opinion on this. This is the third year. We initiated this 3 years ago when we were still the Institute for Tourism, Travel and Culture. Right. Now we are the Department of Tourism Management. But nonetheless, we'll continue with what we're doing. And in those 3 years, we had some great results, some great learning experience also from students who grew in their role as researcher and into fine young leaders in the industry. And we have good enough samples for this. So to keep it short, I would like to give the word to Professor Marie Avellino. She's my boss, so yeah, there we go. And she will have a short introduction and a short slideshow of what we do. So in the meantime, we have to change microphone, so that is going to be done by the young lady here.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to see a nice group here. First of all, Dane already, welcomed you all, but I also want to welcome you. And for those of you that are joining us for the first time, I wish to give a bit of background to what the, more than the history of how this started, is a bit of background of how we decided that this would be a good project. We used to have a lot of students carrying out research in their final year, in their third year, or else when they're doing their master's or doctorate, and most of the time it was just us, the supervisors or the examiners that get to see this work. And then we would go maybe to a conference and so on, and we realized that what our students had done could actually feed into what is being said by the industry, or does not fit in with what the industry was saying. So we decided that we needed a sort of platform to exhibit the work of our students. Obviously, we have a large number of students, and it's impossible to, bring all the work that they do to the forefront. But every year we decided we will check or, choose a few topics or dissertations that will make sense or are very important, that what they would have discovered, the research that they would have found out would be passed on to the industry, and therefore helping for us to develop a very, good tourism industry. And so here we are, third annual showcase. And as Dane was saying, in the first 2 years, we came here as the Institute for Tourism, Travel and Culture. And over the last year or so, we transitioned and we have joined a faculty. We are now part of the Faculty of Economics, Management and Accountancy within the University of Malta, from where we started. When we started out 12 years ago, 15 years ago, it was just one study unit for tourism. It was part of the BCom project. And from then it developed to more study units, and then a degree in tourism studies. And then from tourism studies, we decided that we need to have an institute, because at the time we were carrying out a lot of research, because for those of you that don't know, when it's an institute or a center, the focus is more on the research. And at the time, we were focusing a lot on EU projects. So we had the students, the undergrad, the postgrads, and then a lot of projects. But over the years, what we've come to realize that it's not just the research that is important, it still is, but also what is important for the industry in Malta, and also what is important for the students, because in the space of 10, 15 years, the students have changed. Even we change, what do we want from our lives? How do we want to work? And we also realize that students need specific skills, specific skill sets, so that they are able to be not just, frontliners. It doesn't matter that you start off, as I would say, washing plates. It doesn't matter that you start off making beds, but that you have the skill set that can allow you to go forward. And then the academic knowledge, the theory and so on, that will raise your output to be much higher. I'm seeing some people here that even went to study as mature students like myself. I went to study at 38. So you have all this experience and want to do something but don't have the time to go to lectures. This is ideal, because the Master of Arts in Tourism is by research. So you would spend time, most of the time would be with your supervisor, designing how you're going to carry out your research, etc. You have 2 study units, so that obviously you're skilled in carrying out research. Those are available also online as well, one in semester 1, one in semester 2, and then you can start your research on this. So that's very ideal for people who don't have the time, don't have, the possibility of coming to university on a regular basis. And then obviously you can go for a higher level, which is the MPhil, and then going on to PhD. So there I've given you a bit of a run-through of what we are doing at our department now. I was going to say institute, it's still, a bit of saying it. Here I've included a list of a few study units. This is for those that are in industry. And you feel that your staff need upskilling or upgrading. These are taught to our students under, let's say, normal circumstances as throughout the year. But we can also tailor-make them for particular workplaces. So it could be you have a museum, you want to upgrade the skill set of your staff or something like that. And those are mostly about the cultural heritage product and so on. And then the one before last is about the impact assessment. It's becoming very important that you have an impact assessment. And then the last one is the blue economy. So the blue economy is anything to do with the sea and to do with tourism, and it opens up your mind, to very different aspects and how you can run an enterprise. So it's ideal for people that are already doing something but aren't sure they're doing it the right way, or they want to start, have the idea but don't know where to start. So that's more about for people who are entrepreneurial. Okay, so apart from the lecturing and so on, at our department, we also carry out a lot of research. A third of our work, especially for the full-timers, has to be dedicated to research. And just to give you an idea of some of the research we've carried out recently, this is, for example, managing tourism, residents' attitudes, and experiential tourism as a possible solution to sustainability. This was myself and Professor Briguglio worked on it. We also held an event. We have something called Island Tourism Platform. It's where people that have written research and would like to publish it, but they're not going to go, to the usual publishers. So we have this platform. This is especially for our students that have, especially their masters, and they would like to publish it, but not in a chapter. We can have it uploaded on the platform, and then you can tell people, listen, it's on my CV, you can see my work or something like that. And it carries weight because it's part of the university. But besides all of this, the platform is also important because we organize activities. I chair it, and one of the last activities we held was a sort of an add-on to residents, what they think about tourism and so on. And obviously, as you know, we were also quite concerned about the aspects of over-tourism or maybe not good management of tourism. So we had a workshop, and this was explicitly for the academics. So it wasn't like press or journalists or anything like that. It was purely academics, and we came out with very interesting strategic directions. And another recent activity was focusing on Gozo. Gozo, those of you that know Gozo know that it has, let's say, issues that are very similar to what happens in Malta, but then there are particular elements, problems, issues, and so on, which are, specific to there. And over there, we're invited to give a paper by the GRDA, Gozo Regional Development Association, and we spoke again about providing a quality experience. I think a lot of what you're going to be hearing today is all about that, providing a quality experience. And that's what will bring tourists to the island. So I know we're going to be hearing about our students' research in more depth, but I wanted to give you an overview of what we've covered in the last year. And I've left out the presentations that you're going to be seeing today. So I tried to sort of put them into teams, and they came up with these 3 teams. So one of the teams focused quite a bit on place and location. So one and a bit of dissertations focused on Gozo, the suggestion that it should be developed into a luxury destination, and it could. Another student looked at historic gardens, which is another type of tourist experience. And we had students looking at different locations for food experiences, looking at the traditional museums, and some also came up with ideas about non-traditional museums, such as an underwater museum, and also about agritourism, more specifically about the olive groves. Another theme which emerged was focusing on tourism demand and coming up with a quality service. One student focused on Michelin guide restaurants, but not on the restaurant, not on the food, on the personnel. And what emerged from the research is that guest satisfaction will be much higher if you're looking after your staff. We have another student, she's not here, I don't think, and she's looking also at the 5-star industry and the kitchens and so on. And again, that's already coming. It's becoming very obvious that if you're going to look after your staff, now I'm not going to go into how you look after your staff, but the output of the staff is going to be much higher than if no respect, no, the conditions aren't good for your staff. So that was quite interesting. And we also had somebody looking at guest satisfaction in the upmarket segment. Again, very much linked to the satisfaction is linked to what the staff do as well. And she is suggesting that one should take a proactive approach, then, just deal with problems and try to solve them. And also suggested, not just for the upmarket segment, but some other theses as well, suggested that we could have much finer guest segmentation. So it's not just saying, okay, this is generation X and these are the older people and so on. Within that bracket, within that, let's say, element, then you've also got differences as well. And it's not an age thing, although I will link it now to gastronomy. It also we found it to be linked to age. So, and therefore, once you see what the guests are expecting, then you need to tailor-make your training, your staff development to what you hope to achieve or what your guests are expecting from you. The third theme is about the tourist experience. As I said, we're going to see that theme throughout. There were a lot of different elements. For example, a student worked a lot on virtual reality as a tool for the pre and the post experience, which also helps with sustainability, because if you're doing VR, you're not having the physical impact on the place when people visit, or it extends the experience afterwards, because either you record it or something like that. Yes, using VR for Filfla. Those of you know that's in Natura 2000, obviously we shouldn't take tourists on it and so on, but using VR, one is able to maybe explain how Filfla was used or how it might have been and so on. Some other elements, underwater volunteer programs to encourage community participation. I'm a strong believer of this. You can't just, throw tourism at the local people and expect that they're going to act as if they're in a play for tourists. They have to be involved. They have to have ownership of it. If not, you're not going to be as successful. You can be successful, of course. You can bring thousands of tourists, but it's much better if everybody is on board. You will raise the product quality. Gastronomy features throughout, a suggestion for Maltese cocktail tasting, Olive Grove. This is very interesting. Maltese Carnival as an all-year-round event for cruise passengers. So she came up with the idea that the cruise passengers, as you know, are here for a very short period. Most of the time, they're all taken to Mdina, Valletta, and so on. So, you don't get a very good quality experience. And why not have, the visitors spend a few hours making costumes, having an idea, dressing up, different, thinking out of the box. If I could add to this, was maybe the students wouldn't know, this is something that could be done even on the ship, before the excursion, and then in the excursion you take them to a place related to Carnival, so you've extended the experience. I used to do this with a British company, whereby I would have the talks in the evening about different elements, and then the next day they visit the place. The visit next day, after you've heard about what you're seeing, is much better. Here I have Paul and some other guides. And when your tourists come prepared, it's much better than just, it's thrown at them. So as you can see, we've had quite a bit of interesting dissertations. So with that, I'll thank you, and I will be leaving you in the hands of our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And on mic now.
So now we need to switch the mic because the first student to come up is Sir Matthew Saliba. And he's going to talk about Valletta. Now we all have our own opinions about Valletta, I guess. Can you get through the jungle of tables and chairs? If you need an ambulance, will it reach you? And all these kind of things. So he has his own point of view on things. So you're going to be microphoned.
More than this point of view, because I know his work. It's also what he was told by the respondents and particularly carried out quite a number of interviews. And he also worked himself on site, as obviously most of us do. And so what he's going to be telling you is the result of all of this research.
That's the mic.
Right. Okay, the other one, we need to...
So good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew. I just finalized my thesis with this title, Challenges and Directions Towards Achieving Sustainable Pathways in Valletta. So obviously I chose Valletta for a number of reasons, mainly because in the last couple of years, it has been quite a hot potato in the sense that many people were criticizing Valletta, others were praising Valletta, a lot of issues going on. And we are also constantly hearing about sustainability. So we are told that we have to be sustainable, we have to achieve more sustainable pathways, and I try to combine the two. So basically, I will start by... So how do I...
Just now, shift it.
Okay, yes. So I start with... Thank you. So I start with the definition of sustainability. The United Nations define sustainability as a balance between the environmental, the economic, and social spheres that meets the needs of the present without compromising future generations to meet their own needs. And there you have the triple bottom line. They are all essential to achieving sustainability. So these are some facts about Valletta. It has been the European Capital of Culture in 2018. Here we see that Valletta was reaching quite a staggering number of tourists. So in 3 years you see an increase of more than 100,000. And this is obviously, at first glance, it could be positive in the sense that it's okay to speak about numbers. It's okay to speak about bombastic facts, but then you have to see the effects as well. Last year, over a little bit more than 900,000 cruise liner passengers arrived in Valletta through the Grand Harbour, which is also another bombastic statistic. But when you analyze these things, where is Valletta going? Are we being sustainable in our own manner or not? And this is what I try to analyze in my thesis. So basically, these are the key questions I asked to the interviewees I had. So I interviewed a range of different stakeholders, including the local council, the residents themselves, environmental organizations such as the Grand Harbour Regeneration Corporation, Heritage Malta, the organizations which are stemming from the economy, such as the Malta Chamber of Commerce, the MHRA itself, and also the Malta Tourism Authority, being the main tourism regulator in Malta. And these are the main 3 challenges that I found. So the economic challenge is the high property prices leading to displacement. So here I have to be clear in the sense that it was not only tourism which caused this situation. However, tourism had a role in this because obviously more people started visiting Valletta, and as more people start to show interest, prices go up because that is how business works. And unfortunately, the residents I interviewed all told me that they know people who unfortunately had to leave Valletta because they could no longer afford the rent. This had two facades. So I had both people renting and people who were finding it difficult to buy properties, including Valletta youths who moved out of Valletta because they wanted to get independent, but now they cannot return because they cannot afford the property. The second challenge relating to the environment, a lot of building developments and alterations which are somehow, unfortunately, not respecting Valletta's character. I had one resident who unfortunately told me and asked a very relevant question: why are we turning everything into a boutique hotel? Aren't we able to find a balance between development and preserving the historic character of Valletta? And the social challenge, unfortunately, again, residents being not totally eliminated, because I won't take that stand, in the sense that the information I had was subjective, and obviously not everyone told me that they are being 100% eliminated. I had people who were telling me that they feel totally eliminated, and others who feel that the consultation is very sporadic, in the sense that it doesn't take place very often. And that led, unfortunately, to noise pollution issues affecting not only the residents themselves, but also tourists, because 2 years ago we had tourists in Valletta demanding compensation for not being able to sleep at night. And obviously the problem starts getting more complex. But also I started thinking out of the box, and I think that at master's level it's really important to not only criticize what is being done, but also offer a new solution, because it's very much easy to criticize, but then you have to be an independent thinker and try to form solutions. And I think the first statement is quite positive, in the sense that despite that the situation isn't 100% positive, all the stakeholders interviewed, and I truly believe in this, all the stakeholders interviewed, in the sense that even residents are willing to take things forward. And these are some of the ideas for taking Valletta forward. Currently there is a project by the Malta Tourism Authority called Smart Valletta, involving different stakeholders, and by different stakeholders I mean the residents themselves, local band clubs, workers in Valletta, who are being questioned about the issue of livability in Valletta. Other projects, such as the Valletta Management Plan, organized by the Malta Chamber of Commerce, which has a holistic approach addressing the three pillars, so environment, economy, and society, making up sustainability. More proposals. This was a proposal by one particular interviewee who told me that a carrying capacity report specific to Valletta would help Valletta identify, for example, because a carrying capacity report has different facades. Among other things, it would, for example, identify the maximum number of tourists visiting the city a day. And this goes back to the first slide where I said that almost 1 million passengers passed through the Valletta Grand Harbour to get to Malta. And obviously, we still don't know whether that number is sustainable or not. So obviously, a carrying capacity report would be able to identify whether that is actually practical or not. Another idea, the continuation of pedestrianizations in the areas around Valletta. So, as I explained here, it would make Valletta more environmentally sustainable, urge the public to use alternative modes of transport other than their private cars, and turn it into a fully accessible city. So, these projects have already been going on. This was an idea mentioned by the Grand Harbour Regeneration Corporation, an organization which is currently taking care of projects surrounding Valletta. They have already initiated projects, such as the one which basically pedestrianized the whole area in front of Msida's Church. And the idea is to actually continue pedestrianizing continue pedestrianizing the whole area up to Valletta, and in that manner, people can just access Valletta by foot without having the need to use private cars. Because obviously, pollution and parking are other pertinent problems in Valletta. So this is my conclusion. Valletta's future depends on us all, how we are really eager to ensure the sustainability, how willing we are to ensure its sustainability. However, the result I had from the interviews carried out shows that yes, people in general are willing to take things forward. This is a very important aspect as well, mentioned by different stakeholders. We have to stop and avoid working in silos, because it's okay to have different priorities, because we have different people operating in Valletta. However, we have to listen to each other and really understand what is best for Valletta if we really want Valletta to move forward as a city. So the message that I have for you all here is to take a much more communicative approach and understand that if we really sit around the table, we get our priorities right and understand what Valletta really needs, then yes, we can reach and we can have a much more sustainable capital city. So that was everything from my end. Thank you very much for your attendance, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Matthew. And of course, at the end, we'll invite audience for questions. First, we give the voice first to the students, and at the end, you can ask questions.
Okay.
So you can.
I think I can keep the mic.
No, the lady get the mic, because Justin Gauci is a second speaker, and Justin Gauci is talking about repeating visitors. Now, we all have a repeater. We have a cliché in our mind of a repeating visitor. The English couple, the first day they're white, next day they're red, and so that continues throughout the visitors, because they can't stand the sun. So, yeah, this cliché is in mind, but the repeat visitor is also somebody talking different. And Justin has explored this, and let's see how the repeat visitor of today looks like.
Oh, thank you.
Over to you. So, this is
So, good evening. My name is Justin Gauci, and I will be talking with you about my dissertation, which was titled Repeat Tourism in Malta and Evaluation. And the aim of my dissertation was to analyze the number of repeat tourists within the last 5 years, and also analyze the discrepancy between first-time tourists and repeat tourists from 2018 to 2023. To cut you some slack, basically the discrepancy between these two kinds of tourists has increased, which means that repeat tourists have been in decline. In fact, in the record-breaking year of 2019, 25% of the inbound tourists were repeaters, whereas in 2023, another record-breaking year, 23% of the inbound tourists were repeaters. During COVID, from 2020 to 2022, there was actually quite a big increase in repeaters, considering the low amount of inbound tourists. Now, by repeat tourists, what I mean is that you can also resell. Repeat tourists are elements where you can basically resell and consider repurchasing, and also, of course, they translate into repeat consumers. What constitutes repeat tourists would be basically the service quality, which is the perception of the consumer and the expectation of the service provider or product provider, which, according to my survey, which basically I had to distribute 200 physical copies, and I also uploaded it online, Malta has a very good service quality. When it comes to information, Malta as well was found that the information about Malta was true to its word. When it comes to information, repeat tourists, in a sense, are mature tourists, which means that they have their own information about Malta. It does not mean that they rely on obvious advertisement. They build up their own information. So as a tourist, they are a different kind of species. When it comes to motivation and the sense of loyalty, we are both two variables which I joined together, and I found that they were highly significant, which means that tourists were motivated by their loyalty towards Malta, which is a beautiful thing about tourists that come back to Malta, because they're not coming here for something specific, but necessarily. They're actually coming here because they feel, in a way, a sense of loyalty. Now, when it comes to the benefits of repeat tourism, one of the most obvious and most talked about is cost effectiveness and also light investment, which in a way means that you don't really need the advertisement required to attract first-timers, which has to be fast. On the other hand, repeaters actually do the advertisement for us through word of mouth. They actually share their experience here in Malta with their friends, family, and relatives. When it comes to investment, general investment in a business will, of course, attract not only repeaters, but will also attract first-timers. So you don't have to invest specifically in repeat tourism to increase repeat tourism. Another thing would be to increase the customer lifetime value. So basically, as a repeat consumer, you are increasing the customer lifetime value of your customers, of your tourists, by having them coming back over and over again. As I said, repeat purchases and repeat selling. Now, reselling also can be used as an indicator that what you're offering, the service or product, is actually an affirmation of quality. If someone is coming back for something, they definitely must like it. On the other hand, when it comes to familiarity, they have basically, repeat tourists have the familiarity which can be associated to familiarity of locals. So they mix and match with locals, and they try to distinguish themselves from first-timers, which means that their familiarity can be basically a particular element which can be invested in to make sure that they come back and be distinguished from first-timers. Motivation to loyalty, once again, it can be utilized, used in our favor, because they are coming back not for a service or a product, but they're coming back out of loyalty. And then word of mouth and social media, as one of my interviewees has stated, it was the best PR. It is the best kind of advertisement. I mean, we don't have to pay for it. In fact, it would be prejudiced if a provider paid for a tourist to actually advertise Malta. So in a way, it is the most honest way of advertising a service or a product. Now, I did some research demographics, which in a way give an overview of the data, the results of the data I gathered. The repeat tourists in the survey, the respondents in my survey, were aged between 45 and 65 plus, which means that they are of a mature age. And they've been to Malta up to more than 15 times and for more than 15 years. Now, I did not ask them for their nationality because of I didn't ask for extra details, basically, but one could assume that they would be British citizens, considering Malta's past, and they would have come here not only because of family, but also because Malta was a holiday destination, which, because of post-Brexit, I mean, unfortunately, it's a bit expensive to do again. But when I asked them why did they come back, it was because they had a very positive past experience and because of family. And one of the most common activity for them would have been sightseeing. Now, the last two questions in my survey were open-ended, and sightseeing was a topic that was discussed in the open-ended questions, where they felt it was under threat, because considering Malta's overdevelopment, I mean, what was once a field or an old fortification, now is a block of apartments. And these tourists are not only just simple repeaters, but they are mature and experienced tourists, which means that in a way we have to listen to them if we want in a way to move forward. It is good to develop, it is good to move forward, but what depends is how you move forward. Now, the perspective of these repeat tourists was that they were aware of Malta's changing environment, infrastructure and demography. For example, it was a bit funny and a bit odd for tourists to comment on over-tourism. I mean, for a tourist to say that there are too many tourists is a bit funny. I mean, they were also aware that, there's too many foreigners, where are the Maltese? Repeat tourists also look for products that are truly authentic and unique. And by authentic and unique, I mean, what is unique, what is authentic? Is a Michelin star restaurant authentic enough? I mean, is a history museum authentic enough? Is the service offered authentic enough? Then what they look for is the quality and experience. I mean, as I said, they will have come back because of the positive past experience. But what really strikes these repeaters would be pricing. Now, which is in a way a bit odd, because considering prices in foreign countries, I mean, Malta is relatively cheap. I mean, if you go to France, a packet of cigarettes is 12 euros. Here is about 6 euros. So it's not really that expensive. But repeat tourists, according to my research, are extremely frugal. So which means that when they come back, they want to spend less. That doesn't mean that they want to spend less because they're being cheap. No, because they are now more aware, more open-minded on what Malta has on offer. First-timers tend to use price as a quality indicator. Repeat tourists use experience as a quality indicator. Now, finally, my comments would be that overdevelopment should be countered with readjustment. For example, one of the discussions I had with my supervisor, Professor Maria Avellino, was about tours around the island. For example, back in the day, 20 years ago, you could easily do a tour of the island within a day. Nowadays, it's virtually impossible. I mean, I would feel guilty if I sold a single-day tour when you're going to spend half a day stuck in traffic. I mean, I don't think it's very fair. What I will recommend is we readjust to the status quo, to what goes on in Malta. And I would redesign and, in a way, refresh Malta's tourism. And by refresh, I mean we find a balance between first-timers and repeaters. But also, of course, vary the type of tourism. For example, one of my interviewees insisted on Michelin stars being authentic, which I agree with him. But unfortunately, I would say it is very different, for example, from when you have, for example, the noonday gun on the saluting battery, which is basically a past experience which happened every day. It had a function, and it is being done again every day from Monday to Saturday, basically, for a very cheap price that would appease repeat tourists. I mean, as I mentioned before, I mean, tourists are extremely frugal. So going to a Michelin star to eat your food, your daily food, basically, doesn't make any sense. It goes beyond logic. And that is why I did ask the question of what is authentic. By over-tourism, I would, of course, comment that, capping has to be introduced. But capping should be introduced rather sensitively. Considering Malta's low number of tourism numbers compared to other destinations, I believe that capping should be well calculated and rather sensitive to the low numbers. And that instead of using price as a quality indicator, experience, the whole experience. If you come back here for 7 days, those 7 days have to be the best 7 days of your life. Not this year or next year, every time you come back. That was all that I had to say. thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Justin. It was a great thing. So, who's next? Calvin. So you're warmed up now, and
Thank you.
Calvin is going to tell us about party. How do you party in Malta, and how does the party scene change? And he's a party head, so you know, carries us a Wilson. So it's going to be interesting how we do things. Another thing, capping. What do you think of the idea of levying an entrance fee to empty and to another tourist? Would that be profitable? Would that be stupid?
Hello.
There are countries who are now having this discussion on
Hello.
how this has to be. So let me see how you're geared up. You're done?
All good.
Okay, over to Calvin.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Calvin Grech, and I am a recent master's graduate in management and tourism. So, first off, I would like to say that I'm truly honored to be speaking about this topic here today, which is shaping the future of music events in the Maltese Islands, with a particular perspective from selected stakeholders on Gen Z attendees. Before we dive into this presentation, I would also like to thank Dr. Morrow and Prof. Avellino for inviting me here today and for their continuous help in my research. And lastly, I would also like to extend my gratitude for organizing this showcase and for giving us students an opportunity to be heard and to share our ideas. So without further ado, let's get into it. What made me choose this topic? So first of all, just as Dr. Monroe mentioned, I am immensely passionate about events planning. Secondly, I believe that there was a lack of research after the pandemic. Therefore, I decided to choose this particular topic in order to find the motives as to why Gen Z want to attend events after the pandemic. So we want to explore how we are going to bring back individuals to the partying scene, and obviously to find the ways on how we can find adaptability to this market. So today we will be discussing the core findings from my dissertation, which explores the challenges faced by the music event sector in Malta, particularly in relation to engaging with Gen Z, and offer recommendations for future improvements. With that said, the goal here is to provide valuable insights that can enhance the appeal and sustainability of events in the new generation of attendees. Now, when we are referring to Gen Z, we are simply, for those who don't know, we are simply referring to that generation of individuals that were born from 1997 to 2012. So a generation consisting now mostly of young adults and teenagers. And an interesting fact here is that Generation Z nowadays has surpassed millennials and baby boomers to become the largest generation in the world, with around 32% of the world's population and 2.47 billion people worldwide. So therefore, this statistic underlines perfectly the critical importance for the tourism industry to acknowledge and leverage this generation's importance in today's market. So I've tried to choose the best 5 core problems that I could identify, because if I'll go through all of them, we'll stay here until tomorrow morning. And first off is the evolution of music genres. So the emerging trend of Gen Z as a genre hybrid movement, along with the declining popularity of traditional genres and shifting music preferences among partygoers, poses dilemmas, immense dilemmas for event planners. We've got traditional genres like jazz and classical music, which are much less favored nowadays by Gen Z, and this impacts the potential return on investment for events centered around these genres. So if you're going to be an event planner, it wouldn't make sense for you to organize a rock-themed music party for Gen Z individuals, because it wouldn't make sense. And it's crucial for event planners to align offerings with Gen Z's diverse and contemporary music preferences to thrive in the competitive music events market. Now, with regards to adaptation efforts, besides shifting away from the traditional music and applying contemporary music trends, another solution is by making use of the niche targeting technique. This brings us to the importance of targeting specific music genres to attract and engage with such attendees. Therefore, here we would simply establish distinct brands that align with various music genres. And in the past few years, Malta has been applying this quite well. However, I believe that more work needs to be done on this. For example, when we are referring, I see some Gen Z individuals here, so they might know what I'm speaking about. However, like for example, you've got the house music, which is good represented by, for example, a party, which is district. Then you've got the commercial side, which is represented by two giants that have been organizing events here in Malta for a while, which is Sound Salon and G7 events. And then you've also got two large-scale festivals like Dalma and Grech, which offer a different side to music, including techno music. Another factor is the changing consumption trends. So one of the issues highlighted is the decreasing interest in alcohol consumption among Gen Z. This trend has significant implications for the music events industry, requiring adaptation of catering and marketing strategies to accommodate the preferences of attendees who choose not to consume alcohol during events. Each year introduces a difference of new trends and a multitude of ways of how attendees want to enjoy themselves during an event. And presently, gin holds the status of the most requested beverage by most generations at the moment. And when choosing beverages for events, there are multiple factors, such as the event's timing and the type that influences selections. Like, for example, if you go to a festa, you've got the beer that is really prominent there. And even like an afternoon festival under the sun, a beer would usually go well with most of the attendees. So event planners need to stock up well depending on the event type. And if you've got an evening event, you would usually go for more spirits because they gain more prominence during the night. Globally, there is a trend towards health-conscious and sober choices, evidenced by the popularity of alcohol-free and low-alcohol products like non-alcoholic beers. Interestingly, Farsons have been trying to create and perfect the best recipe for a 0.0 alcoholic beer. They've managed to do so after working on it for around 2 years, and now it's available in the market, which is really doing well. And in fact, Malta's national alcohol policy for 2023 highlighted a decline in teenage alcohol consumption, credited to ongoing educational efforts spanning over 20 years nowadays. Like, for example, drinking and driving, prohibition against smoking, drug use as well. So you've got a vast majority of campaigns influencing teenagers and young adults nowadays. Unlike Gen X individuals in the past, today's teenagers are more informed, let's face it. So in the past, someone choosing not to drink, there might have been also the factor of being perceived as antisocial as well. So regardless of their plans for the next day. So, however, the current generation nowadays is more accepting of individuals who opt for a non-alcoholic beer or for a soft drink. So this allows them to socialize with the rest of their friends without being singled out as non-drinkers. So technology, aligning with Gen Z preferences in music event planning through technology, poses challenges such as job obsolescence as a consequence of online ticket purchases. Before, you've had high commission rates for ticket sellers. Nowadays, the market has changed drastically, especially after the pandemic. We had a lot of event planners who admitted during interviews that they used to sell, for example, 50% of their tickets through online ticket platforms and the rest through physical tickets. After the pandemic, this has changed completely and has shifted, let's just say, definitely over 95% of the tickets are now being sold online. There is also the rapid tag advancements that require constant updates nowadays to stay relevant, and ensuring high quality attendee experience in a digital first environment is crucial. Whilst meeting these demands requires proactive tech integration to match Gen Z's evolving expectations. Now, with regards to the solutions for this, first of all, to boost success in the music event sector, the stakeholders must embrace technological shifts. So one way of embracing technological shifts, and this was the most prominent way on how companies were managing to stay updated on the latest technological updates, was by, in fact, employing young adults, being part of the Gen Z generation. And besides that, utilizing user-generated content via advanced smartphone cameras and free editing apps cuts costs and ensure high-quality results. Being an event planner, you would prefer, instead of renting high-quality cameras and inviting camera crew to record your event, nowadays, one will have simply just a team of 2-3 people which make part of the Gen Z generation, and they will be taking care of all of this stuff using free apps that are available to everyone nowadays, and even certain edits and Photoshop applications are available to make use of for absolutely free. And besides that, technology also differentiates artists, crafting original music and cultivating a robust social media presence. Adapting to tech changes is crucial for standing out. Additionally, electronic ticket scanning streamlines entry, minimizing also queues, and enhancing attendee satisfaction, as you can see here. All right, so the saturation of music events, according to a vast majority of the participants that I have interviewed for this dissertation, most of them reported that Malta's music event sector is highly saturated. First of all, we're living in a country that is definitely not sustainable for the population that we have nowadays. So, in my opinion, everything is becoming highly saturated. However, this is visible, and especially from the social media promotion that is being carried out from a vast majority of the event planning companies, and also attendees going to these events. The findings indicate that the high number of competing events has reduced the pool of potential attendees, spreading the remaining audience thin across the remaining events. To address this, event organizers should focus on innovating and creating unique and differentiated event experiences, and obviously to stand out in a very crowded market. Emphasizing the distinctive aspects of each event can capture the attention of discerning attendees, and leverage social media can effectively highlight these unique features. Now, this brings us to the last core challenge that we will be speaking about today, which is seasonal fluctuations in Malta. Now, seasonal fluctuations in Malta's music event sector make a very big difference. First of all, you've got the economic challenges going on, it affects the revenue streams, and you've also got a problem with operational stability. Peak tourist seasons see high occupancy rates and demand for cultural experience, while off-peak periods experience lower attendance, with some clubs even opting to close down because they wouldn't be able to support the costs of running their stuff during the winter period. And they will be, obviously, they will reopen during the summer period. However, it wouldn't make sense for them to continue operating throughout all of the year. And this requires strategies for financial viability and attendee engagement year-round. Now, as you can see, this is a graph of the occupancy rates going for the year 2019, so right before the pandemic, because it's changed and there was some highs and lows, which really didn't make sense during the pandemic, since the country was closing and reopening the borders. However, during the last year before the pandemic, as you can see, the peak seasons here are July and August, which would make sense for tourists to come during that period, and off-peak seasons, which run from late November until early February. Now, in conclusion, enhancing Malta's year-round music event sector hinges on the vital contribution of tourists. By organizing events during off-peak periods, we can evenly distribute income throughout the year. And this helps in attracting visitors when the island is less crowded and foster economic benefits and job creation. Therefore, besides having meetings with them and inviting them to continue supporting more event planners, I urge the Malta Tourism Authority to support major events taking place between the months mentioned in this slide, in order to avoid endorsements being given to the already peak tourist months, such as July and August, as seen in the previous slide. The strategy will eventually balance tourist arrivals and ensure increased job stability and economic benefits for Malta throughout the rest of the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Calvin. This was a eye-opener for big events, because it's not so simple. Okay, we have a podium, we put some music on, and it goes. Apparently, there's more to it. So, yes. Thank you very much. If you could. So, Claire Farrugia. So, this is a topic very close to my heart. St. John's Co-Cathedral. I've been engaged with the cathedral since 1998 or thereabouts. So I'm very pleased to see the place from something which was nearly crumbling under its own weight to this splendid thing. And as Claire said, what a punishment it is to be blind in a place like this. And her teaching is all about visual there.
Thank you.
In beautiful places. So there is a thing to it.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Ready.
Off you go.
Thank you. So, thank you for having me and good evening. I would like everyone here to look back and imagine the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, like the Mona Lisa, the Niagara Falls, your reflection, or, better yet, St. John's Co-Cathedral. However, now I would like you to imagine living with sight loss. Imagine not being able to see or comprehend what is around you, the beauty around you. We basically take our sight for granted.
And however, blindness is a spectrum, and globally, 2.2 billion people suffer from some sort of sight loss. So you may have already seen this painting. It's the beheading of St. John the Baptist by Caravaggio, and it's housed at St. John's Co-Cathedral. However, I wanted to show you the different spectrum regarding blindness through different ways visually impaired people might see the same painting. So this is how originally it looks like, but people can see it like this, this, or even this. So therefore, my question for this research was, what can we do to make something visual for the non-visual? However, a quote, statement given to me by an acquaintance of mine is what motivated me the most to conduct this research, and it stated the following: what are they supposed to see if they're blind? All that gold, how are you going to explain it to them? They might as well stay home. And personally, I found that to be very offensive, but rather than bringing up an argument, I decided to take up this research, and I investigated the visitors' experience of the blind and visually impaired at St. John's Co-Cathedral. To conduct this research and understand each and every lacunae which can be found in a visitor's experience, I categorized the visit in 3 stages. So the pre-visit, referring to the decision-making by visiting the museum's website. On-site, which refers to the audio guide, a guided tour, the map brochure, and the museum personnel, so the staff. On-site, the work involved observational fieldwork, participant fieldwork, where I acted as a sighted visitor, and furthermore, to have transparency and actual results, strong results, blind and visually impaired participants visited St. John's. And after that, I received feedback on the blind and visually impaired visitors' experience to understand any lacuna or even successes in the current tourism product. So from the analysis and findings, currently the website is not accessible for the blind and visually impaired. Furthermore, the brochures are currently not accessible. The museum personnel currently do not have training when it comes to customer care. The audio guide, however, was drafted for sighted persons. However, they are not descriptive enough for someone who is blind. Guided tours, navigation and crowding, which was one of the most intense subjects of my dissertation, where all of the participants commented that crowding hindered their experience, and especially one participant who was accompanied by a guide dog. The sighted visitors were actually poking its nose, making noises at the dog, and literally the dog just lay down on his belly and didn't move. So it also comes part as well from other sighted visitors to show respect to blind and visually impaired persons. However, having said this, the management of St. John's Co-Cathedral recognized these lacunae, and they are already working on new strategies, and I myself and management have been discussing on what can be done to improve their experience. So my recommendations for assistive technologies to enhance inclusivity at St. John's, we can start off with accessible websites. Disabled persons, in my case, the blind individuals, it would be ideal if they would be able to book online So they can state if they require assistance when visiting St. John's, whether that's a sighted guide or further help. It would be ideal as well to have an accessibility representative. The role of this representative would be to form part of management, and they would understand the visitor's experience of any disability group. And they would be the reference point as well of disabled visitors. So they would sort of be the middleman on explaining and stating what can be done to always improve the visitors' experience of all disabled communities. And of course, for an accessible website, it has to have accessible content. For the map brochures, I would recommend providing different formats, which can be Braille, print disabled, large format, and for dyslexic persons, it's very easy to implement. And there are companies in Malta who actually print out Braille brochures. Staff training. I would recommend more staff when it comes to each and every chapel. Reasons being for conservation, because when someone touches a wall or damages a wall, there's no going back. And also to prevent what happened to myself and the blind participants during the guided tour, where they were basically getting annoyed, because that's what it is. They were getting annoyed and frustrated. As well, sighted guides would be beneficial to have readily available at all times. So if a blind person would require assistance with navigation, they would be readily available. And also, the sighted guides would be ideal for blind persons who would be visiting individually, because it's important to mention that currently St. John's doesn't conduct guided tours for the blind. However, I have spoken to the CEO, and we will be discussing creating guided tours for the blind. So, audio descriptive guide. This is something that I see that can be implemented very easily at St. John's. It's important to remember that blind persons need more detail to visualize whatever is in front of them. So when it comes to describing things, for example, a painting or a monument, it's important to mention if the face is smiling, if the face is sad, the facial structure, the color, the size as well. And to assist further to the audio descriptive guide, I would suggest beacons. Now, I just used a small red circle just so I can give you an idea. So these beacons would be activated either via Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or infrared. So a person would carry their audio guide around their neck on a lanyard, and they do not have to worry about clicking any buttons or choosing an option on what to listen, because when the person passes in front of the beacon, there would be a radius where the Bluetooth range would be, and the audio will resume. And this, of course, would be beneficial to the blind for whoever uses a white cane or is guided with a guide dog. To enhance guided tours, I would suggest what are known as touch tours. So what touch tours are is a multimodal approach where a person is describing and the blind person is touching an object. However, if you have visited St. John's, it wouldn't be ideal to touch the actual artifacts there, like the monuments. Therefore, I would suggest replicas, 3D replicas of the monuments, and 2.5D bas relief of paintings. Now, this is an interesting project, which I am happy to be a part of, where in collaboration with MTA, St. John's Co-Cathedral has created a 2.5D bas relief of the beheading, and it will be implemented sometime in the future. Tactile maps and flooring. So these are two chapels which are inside the cathedral, and as you can see on the side, this is an idea, a mock-up of what can be used to help the blind and visually impaired navigate. I put them on the same side specifically because it's important to remember that blind persons and visually impaired cannot see, they have to find things. So you have to ensure that St. John's has 8 chapels. We have to ensure that in every chapel, if you decide it's going to be on the left, you make it on the left throughout the entire church. And something which can be implemented easily is a tactile map at the exit, because it would help them with mind mapping and understanding their surroundings. However, St. John's has a beautiful tombstones flooring, so tactile flooring isn't possible at St. John's. However, I would suggest management that with the new museum project, they can implement tactile flooring for white cane users. It's something which should be considered. To conclude, I wanted to state what the blind participants told me. They told me that they do not deem themselves as vulnerable and that they believe that the environment makes them disabled and not their impairment. They do not need pity from sighted visitors or staff. They consider themselves as normal people, however, what is normal? They did show their disappointment that Malta is not part of the European Blind Union, and they currently do not have a national delegation to represent them, just 5 NGOs. And furthermore, lastly, they voiced their hope that this research will instigate change both at St. John's and hopefully in the Maltese museums. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Claire.
Thank you.
Now, this sounds maybe as a criticism, but it is not, because St. John's has always been the forerunner in innovation in restoration. So it started off when I came here first, 1991, it was a dark mess. If you see it now, it's just the pearl of Baroque, what we have in Malta, and it is always because of forward thinking. So criticism is good, being all yes men and yes women is not good. Only criticism can get us further. So in St. John's they listen and have done the thing, so I'm very grateful to Claire, and also very grateful that she got the space in St. John's to do this. Because many bosses, they fear criticism, but in St. John's it's not the case. So this is a particular case which can be a pilot product for all the other museums in Malta as well. So everybody can learn from these kind of products. So in that case, no, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I don't know if I need the mic anymore because we're going to close off, or we're going to go back to the beginning. Go back to the beginning, because of course we have from our sponsor also the Hilton. We're going to have some what is usually in these cases a glass and a nibble, but of course I need to show you then also the appreciation for all the sponsors. So especially Malta Rural Tours, which is a unique entity in its own. Now, I promise you that you can have questions. So I would like to hear some questions and direct it to whom? So I can invite the speakers to come forward. Please come forward. And then the audience can direct the questions to the speakers. And then, of course, let's see who can answer. You want to start?
I don't have a question. Well, I have a lot of questions, but actually, what I'd like to say is well done to these students. What many people would not know is that the majority of them doing all this research whilst, sorry, while, okay. So the majority would not know that these students were carrying out this research while studying and also working. So I think you've done a fantastic job. They took it upon themselves, to be leading edge, in all their suggestions. So really, I'm not going to ask each one a question because I would have a lot. I'll leave that to the floor.
Okay, so I'm sure that I don't have to point my finger to somebody to have a question. You need to have some questions. Paul, you've been, you're running commentary, so tell me.
First of all, on the
Thank you.
what's his name? About the retention, they are very interesting. I come from the tobacco industry, and loyalty and retention, it's if you lose a client, you lost him forever. But if you retain him, you get more, and he's coming over and over again. And I'm pleased that you met people tourists on the run. How did you get the information that 25% return, 23 from the sample that you took?
25 and 23 were from NSO and MTA data. And then from the survey, what I did was I went myself to hotels from Malika all the way down to Valletta. I gave my survey to the hotels. Not every hotel accepted, unfortunately. Most of them didn't even bother to give them away. And in fact, I had 15 respondents out of 200. Then I had that digital survey, which was uploaded on Facebook groups. And from there, basically, I got my biggest sample, around 300 respondents.
And from Malta or people?
They were basically, I uploaded them groups where they're related to Malta, but also related to tourists. For example, expats in Malta, for example, repeat tourists of Malta. And the survey was only for repeaters. So the layout could not be filled out by a first-timer, only by repeaters, only by someone that's been here more than once.
Okay, great. Because in the tobacco industry, we used to survey 500 respondents a year, and we used to go from if they consider coming to Malta, whether they smoke on occasional basis, on a regular basis, and whether they are loyal, they always stick to the same brand. We call it the customer funnel. But this is a very interesting way how you tackled it, and you showed various aspects that you know what you're saying.
Unfortunately, it's very difficult to identify repeat tourists. That's the problem. Because you could stand, for example, at Bujib all day for nothing, basically, and maybe identify one tourist. Like they don't have a tag or whatever. It's very difficult to identify.
With what you found.
Exactly, and I used it digitally, basically.
Great. Well done, brother.
Thank you.
So, who has another question? You. Huh? Now, is there anybody with any questions, please? Because that's essential for this, for these kind of showcases.
It's not a question, it's more of a statement.
Okay. Let's get the microphone to you, hold on.
Thank you. It's not a question per se, but more of a statement. This whole talk about quality versus quantity. And I can't remember your first name, sorry. Matthew. I think there was a couple of you talk about balance. When you're getting more people involved of those stakeholders in the industry, I think the business needs to be really involved in these decisions, because when you talk about quality versus quantity, somebody's pocket's being lined at some point. So when we're talking about volume of cruise ships coming in, as in the luxury business that I'm in, there's obviously certain things or certain cruise lines that we could identify as those that have greater spend per capita as they come in here. But it's just more of a grand statement that yes, we need to focus on this, because short-term pain for long-term gain is basically what we're looking at. Because if we don't address it today, we're going to be in a bigger situation down the road. So I'd be interesting to know, like, you know, are you looking at getting or continuing this research, and are you looking at getting more businesses involved in this discussion as opposed to just, you know, the, you know, cruise port or other different stakeholders?
I could take this study up. I could obviously take this study forward, however, up to a PhD level, for example. However, I still have to consider a lot of things before taking that decision. However, it would be really interesting.
Yeah, it would be good. Well, the Ministry of Tourism, they should be involved in this. And I mean, I was part of a committee that brought things forward to them a few years back, but it's something that we definitely really have to take a close look into.
Yeah, of course, I perfectly agree with you. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wants to?
I can
Oops.
ask, well,
Oh,
not
sorry.
a question, it's my student, here.
Yeah.
It's my student, so, but what do you think about because you were talking about the seasonality, you know, and having more events in the shoulder season and low season. But what do you think would be the solution, since obviously we don't have the weather? Would it have to be a closed space, and do we need a closed space? What do you think?
So first off, it depends on the venue. So first off, there's in my opinion, in Malta we have a lack of venues where this can take place. Obviously, there's always the MFCC, which can take in a vast majority of people. However, that depends on the availability, because it usually is rented on a month-to-month period, and there are a lot of events taking place there and shows like the Malta's Got Talent and the X Factor. So first off, it's a lack of venue. Secondly, I think that the study needs to be used in order to take perspective from the Gen Z as well, because this study, for those who don't know, was just sampled on the interviews taken in from stakeholders that offer services in the Gen Z music events. So that would be like DJs, event planners, individuals who offer sponsorships, hoteliers, and all that sort of individuals. However, I believe that taking a perspective from those who actually want to attend, exactly, then we'll find out on how we can bring them in during the winter periods. If they want to come to Malta, and how we can attract them after all. So I think there are a lot of factors that need to be evaluated by the Malta Tourism Authority, and from there onwards we'll find out on how we can advertise Malta during the winter periods. However, in 20 years ago, Malta was being advertised more of a retirement country to British citizens, and the Malta Tourism Authority and the Ministry for Tourism has done an outstanding job in order to bring in tourists from a lot of countries around the world, not just from Europe, but we've gained a lot of markets, like for example from Italy, Spain, France. We've also got students studying English here in Malta from Colombia, so it's crazy to think about all of these countries and individuals coming to Malta. So yes, I think there are a lot of factors to think about, and we'll take it on from there.
So I have a question for Claire. From your research, we know that 1 in 6 persons in Europe is going to be having problems with sight. So 1 in 30. So, but it's still a large market. So what is your vision for the future in this dark world? When, let's say, most of the museums in Malta would have taken up your suggestions, how would this be a growth market?
That's actually a really good question. So basically, 1 in 30 persons in the EU will suffer from some sort of blindness, as I showed you in the slides. So the fact that there are already 2.2 billion people worldwide, and the WHO did mention that blindness will continue increasing because of age. It's actually more prone for women to become blind, which is very interesting. So the fact that there's already 2.2 billion persons worldwide, if you think about it, I want to say Maltese museums are losing out a lot on these persons. Why aren't we making museums accessible and inclusive when we are so rich in culture and in history? Any museum in Malta. I chose St. John's because it's close to my heart. I've been working there for 5 years. And every museum, it's a pity, because blind persons and visually impaired persons are the same as anyone else. So the fact that they're not enjoying and getting the right visitors experience, both for Maltese nationals and tourists, it's not a good thing to portray that Malta is not being accessible to the blind. So my hope for the future is that we actually start off small. This was just an idea. We start off small, we speak between each other, but the most important thing is to have the blind and visually impaired in the drawing room. Us sighted persons cannot assume what they feel and what they go through. For my research, I had blind participants for the study. So we should do the same, and I suggest this for St. John's as well and other museums who want to increase and enhance accessibility. First things first is to make connections with blind persons, to know your target audience. That's number one. And once you start, it's a ripple effect, it will continue. More people, more blind persons, like the participants told me, they told me, start off with a tactile map and the audio guide, and rest assured we'll suggest it to other persons. So word of mouth will get us there. We just have to start from somewhere at the end of the day.
Thank you for this. So I'd like to ask...
Just want to add this, Claire. It's a good idea what you've said. We start off with one place and continue, and then go throughout all of Valletta and the parties and so on. You know, it's a ripple effect, and I'm sure it can be done. I worked quite a bit on studies on people that have disability or social limitations as well. We forget that also, economically disadvantaged. There's a lot that we can address, and which will obviously link in with sustainability. Very important. That's it. Okay. Okay, so we'll come to the end of this evening. Thank you very much for all of you for coming. And also thank you to the people that hopefully in the future will also be seeing this on YouTube. We look forward even to having your comments, feedback, easily to get in touch with me or Dane here. If you think that there is an area that we should be looking at for further research as well, so that also we'll be able to open up more research and possibilities for enhancing our touristic product. Thank you very much.